You set an alarm last night. You probably snoozed it. Then you made coffee, checked your phone, scrolled for a few minutes, and eventually left the house to go do something that would pay for everything else. That was your morning. But here is the question nobody thinks to ask. What did your ancestors do with their morning? Not 1,000 years ago, not 500, 100,000 years ago, before cities, before farming, before the concept of a job even existed. What did a day actually look like for a human being? The answer is far stranger than you expect. For most of recorded history, historians assumed prehistoric life was brutal and relentless. Constant foraging, constant danger, a desperate scramble just to survive until tomorrow. Thomas Hobbes, writing in 1651, captured that assumption in one famous phrase, calling prehistoric life solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. That idea stuck. It became the mental image most people carry of ancient humans, hunched and exhausted, always on the edge of starvation, barely holding on. Then the research caught up, and it shattered everything. In the 1960s, anthropologist Marshall Sahlins began studying something that would completely rewrite the story. He looked at contemporary hunter-gatherer groups, people whose way of life had changed very little over tens of thousands of years, and he started counting hours. How many hours a day did they actually spend finding food? How much time went to what we would call work? The results shocked the academic world. Groups like the Kungsan of the Kalahari and the Hadza of Tanzania were spending somewhere between 3 and 5 hours a day on subsistence activities. 3 to 5 hours. Then they stopped. Sahlins called it the original affluent society. Not because they had things, but because they had time. Your ancestors were not grinding. They were not punching clocks. They woke up and the morning already looked different from yours. Picture it. No alarm. The body wakes when it decides to wake, likely at first light or shortly after. The camp is small, maybe 15 to 30 people, a mix of family and allies, bound together by necessity and trust. There is no morning commute. The shelter is right there. The people you know best are within arm's reach. The first thing that happens is not productivity, it is something far more human. Conversation. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, whose research into social bonding and group size became some of the most cited work in evolutionary psychology, discovered something striking. When he studied both human and primate groups, he found that social grooming, which in chimps means picking through fur, checking for parasites, maintaining relationships through touch, was replaced in humans by something far more efficient: language, talking. In fact, Dunbar estimated that a significant portion of all human conversation, roughly 60 to 65% of it, is social in nature. Gossip, stories, who did what, who said what, who likes whom. This was not idle chatter. This was the glue holding the group together. So your ancestors woke up and talked. They processed the previous day. They planned the coming one. They shared information about where food had been spotted, which direction the herd was moving, which plants were in season 3 miles east. Information traveled through conversation the way information today travels through your phone. Slowly, by comparison, but just as urgently. Then, at some point in the morning, a decision was made. Go out or stay in. This is something modern humans have forgotten how to do. That decision was not made by a calendar or a manager. It was made by reading the world. Is it raining? Is it too hot? Are there enough berries still left near the creek? Or did we clean it out 2 days ago? Hunter-gatherers were extraordinarily skilled observers of their environment. Studies by anthropologist Louis Liebenberg, who embedded himself with Kalahari trackers for years, found that their ability to read animal tracks, to reconstruct what an animal was doing hours ago from a few bent blades of grass and a smudge in the dirt, was cognitively equivalent to the kind of abstract reasoning used in modern science. They were running hypotheses. They were building mental models. They were doing science, just without a lab. When they went out to gather or hunt, they were not stumbling around hoping to get lucky. They were applying deep, accumulated generational knowledge about a landscape they had lived inside their entire lives. They knew this place the way you know your neighborhood, except at a resolution you cannot imagine. Every tree, every game trail, every shift in the wind. The world outside camp was not threatening to them. It was readable. It was familiar. It was home. Now here is where it gets strange for your modern brain to process. After the work was done, and it was usually done by early afternoon, they stopped. There was no second task waiting, no inbox, no email notification, no project due at 5. When the food was secured, the day shifted into something that looks, from our vantage point, almost suspicious. They rested. They played. Children chased each other and climbed things. Adults sat and talked. Some repaired tools, not frantically, but slowly, the way you might work on a hobby on a Sunday afternoon. Some napped. Some just existed. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, whose research on flow states and optimal human experience became foundational in positive psychology, noted something that cuts right to the heart of this. Modern humans consistently report that leisure, when unstructured and unscheduled, often feels worse than work. We get restless. We feel vaguely guilty. We reach for our phones. The idea of sitting quietly with other people and just talking or doing nothing in particular feels uncomfortable in a way we cannot quite explain. Your ancestors had no such discomfort. That afternoon rest was not laziness. It was biology. The midday heat in sub-Saharan Africa, where your deepest ancestral lineage traces back, makes sustained physical activity genuinely dangerous. The body was built to slow down, to conserve, to recover. The brain was built to process during those quiet hours, to consolidate what had been learned, to run through social dynamics, to sit with the questions the morning had raised. Fire changed everything about human social life roughly 1 million years ago, though some evidence pushes controlled fire use even earlier. What fire gave your ancestors was not just warmth and protection, it gave them extended social time after dark. Before fire, sunset meant retreat and silence. After fire, the group could stay awake for hours, gathered around a light source that held the darkness back, and they talked and they told stories. Anthropologist Polly Wiessner spent decades studying the Kungsan, and in 2014, she published research comparing daytime conversations with nighttime conversations around the fire. The difference was remarkable. Daytime talk was mostly practical, resource sharing, complaints, gossip about people in the group. Nighttime talk transformed. It became narrative. Stories about distant places, about spirits and ancestors, about the great hunts of the past, about imagined futures. Wiessner found that 65% of nighttime conversation around the fire was devoted to storytelling. And those stories served a function beyond entertainment. They transmitted values. They created shared identity. They were the first curriculum. You inherited that. Every story you have ever loved, every myth, every legend, every campfire ghost story, every novel that kept you up too late, traces a direct line back to those firelit circles. Your brain was built for narrative. It was shaped by tens of thousands of years of those long evenings, listening to someone hold a group together with words. So what did ancient humans actually do all day? They woke slowly. They talked. They went out into a landscape they understood deeply. They applied knowledge that took generations to accumulate. They returned. They rested in the heat of the day. They played. They sat with each other. And when the sun went down and the fire came up, they told stories until sleep arrived on its own terms. They did not have more hours than you. They had the same 24. But the shape of those hours was radically different. There was no clear line between work and rest, between productive and unproductive, between useful and useless. Life was woven together in a way that to your modern eyes might look inefficient, but to the human body and the human mind, It was exactly what they were built for. Here is the part that should sit with you. The invention of agriculture roughly 10 to 12,000 years ago, a blink in evolutionary time, did not make life easier. Research by paleopathologist Clark Spencer Larson, who spent decades analyzing skeletal remains from the agricultural transition, found that early farmers were shorter than their hunter-gatherer predecessors. Their bones showed more evidence of disease. Their teeth showed more decay. Their spines showed the compression of repeated labor. The transition to farming was, for the body, a step down. More work, worse outcomes, less variety in diet, and a social structure that was rapidly becoming more hierarchical, more unequal, and more demanding. We chose agriculture anyway, not because it was better for the individual, but because it could support more people on the same land. It was a collective trade. Your ancestors traded their long afternoons and their fire-lit evenings for fields that needed tending from sunrise to sunset every day, because if they did not, winter would arrive and the grain would not be there. The alarm clock did not arrive with the Industrial Revolution. The alarm clock arrived the moment the first seed went into the first furrow. And here you are, setting it again tonight. But somewhere in your body, in the architecture of your nervous system, in the way your shoulders finally drop when a conversation goes on long enough without anyone needing anything, in the way a fire still holds your attention longer than almost any screen, in the way a good story can make you forget, just briefly, that you have somewhere else to be. Your ancient self is still there, waiting for the afternoon to open up, waiting for the fire to come on, waiting for someone to begin.